Can everybody hear me? In this morning's presentation, you hinted at that the way we do the budgets here, the way we present the budgets here, is one of the reasons we have wedges in the community between the golfers and the non-golfers. And one of those things is, I want to ask you, we have historically, or at times, we show the budget after it's done, that golf is programmed to have a loss. When in fact, what you said this morning is, everything in here is an amenity. And as an amenity, the board of directors has a responsibility to fully fund every amenity. Now that may mean that the budget is enhanced through revenue actions, but in my view, it's irresponsible on the board's part to show something at a loss when it's their responsibility to some way, somehow, fund 100% of every amenity, because what you said this morning is everything in here is an amenity and requires funding. Thank you. The question is there any credence to that statement?
I mean, the way the budget process should work is you identify all of your direct revenues for each department. You identify your expenses, and then you're going to come up with a line that is the amount of total assessments necessary to break even. So you in fact budget, when you do your food beverage budget, probably show a small loss. And if your revenues from projected golf revenues aren't enough to cover the golf expenses, you're going to show a small loss. So in theory, your assessments make up the difference. It would be very nice if all departments that charged, that had fees, food, beverage, and golf, if they all broke even. But as a practical matter, they don't. So, I mean, in essence, I'm saying the answer is yes, that's how you do your budget. If you have a shortfall in a department, it's covered by assessment. Close.
I really want to thank you. I was part of the focus group. And hello? You can't hear me? My question relates to on page 57, specifically the revenue enhancement ideas. And specifically, this morning you talked about capital contributions on property resales.
To me, I remember you're in real estate.
My husband is, that's correct. However, that aside, as homeowners, property resales and capital contributions could affect all of us. So my question is, can you please define capital contributions? You also stated, Roger, that, and I just want to re-emphasize that what I heard, that a lot of communities do not do that. Why do they do not? Especially since, again, whether you're dire straits now and you're trying to sell, eventually we're all going to try to sell. So how would this impact?
I would think that, based on what Phil told me this morning, that a lot of the communities in the Sierra group do have some what I'll call a transfer fee. And when times were good and housings was selling, this was a methodology to get money for the capital fund. I don't know of any of these other Sierras that have now suspended that, but basically it's going to come out of the selling price of the house. I mean, that's, it's quoted, when you try to sell a house and you find a prospective buyer and they know they got to pay $2,000 to the association or more, they're going to say, well, can you help me out with that? So, I mean, that's the economic reality of that fee. But it's really for the association to get money for capital. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, so basically, the capital contributions are basically... Specifically, are there any others that affect real estate, or you're just talking about...
No, it's basically on resales, that's
okay.
all.
Right. Certainly, it wouldn't have any
No.
That's right.
I only skimmed through this, so I didn't really see anything in terms of what we bring in for outside events like a wedding. But if you're recommending that each household pay $47, approximately $600 a month to subsidize the restaurant, does that mean that you're going to stop doing weddings so the residents have full use of the clubhouse?
Yeah, the recommendation was a food and beverage minimum of $600 a year, or approximately, or $50 a month. There is no proposal to eliminate outside functions that I know of. So I mean, that's a question really for Bill. And you know, again, our recommendation is simply to increase participation in use of your food and beverage facilities. Okay.
There are no other persons that have signed up? Yes, there are. The person who is going to the microphone is the last person who has signed up, and if anyone else wants to come to the mic, you can stand in line.
I have a scene for a moment.
That's okay.
Do we have any more questions? This is your opportunity to ask questions. So, you know, we're here for a while, so come on up. If you haven't asked a question yet, we'll take priority on that. And anybody else wants to ask a follow-up question, come on up, please.
Larry Schmidt, Country Green. Oh, I'm sorry. Fairway Village. One of the many ways, one of the many ways you got data was through focus groups, which you held in the middle of the summer. Are you convinced you got adequate input from the seasonal people? And if you are convinced, why are you?
Well, it's my understanding that we got a number of emails from people that weren't here. And we did have people on the phone about going.
Hello again. I just have a question about a term that I didn't understand. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. On page 22, your conclusion is that Heritage Pines has less reliance on maintenance fees for operating revenues than the industry average. What are maintenance fees for operating revenues?
That's your annual, or rather your monthly assessment that you pay.
So we rely less on monthly assessments
Then
than the industry average.
correct, which is a good thing.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Roy Belsky from Top Village. Can you all hear me? In the presentation this morning, you had kind of a mixture of industry averages and best practices. Several talk to how those relate to the proposal that you put forward. Is it a combination of industry averages or best practice, or is it all best practice? And if so, how did you get to a best practice number set? You had a lot of industry average number sets. How did you get to the best practice number set? Follow the question?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, obviously, to a certain degree, we can look behind the data